2004 through 2008 Ford F-150 two-wheel drive front wheel bearing replacement. I'm Brian Eslick from How To Automotive, and I'm going to walk you through the steps for replacing the front wheel bearings. The first step is to get the vehicle up in the air and remove the front wheels. If you're doing this at home, use floor jacks and jack stands. To make quick work of this, I'm going to use my Milwaukee M18 Fuel high torque impact gun with 1,150 foot-pounds of nut breaking torque. Lug nuts are not even a challenge for this impact wrench. The next step, we need to remove the brake caliper and bracket here, and to do that we're going to remove the 18mm bolt here. We're not going to remove the bolts from the caliper itself, just the bracket bolt here and here. So there'll be one more below right here. Once again, I'm going to use the Milwaukee M18 high torque impact gun here. I got the wheels slightly turned so I can get a little access for the to the 18mm bolts here, and this will make quick work of removing these bracket bolts here. Once you get the bracket unbolted, you can pull the whole caliper and bracket off as one assembly like this, and then you can tuck it up in the suspension over here, or if it won't stay over here in the suspension, what you can do is get a tie strap or a bungee cord or something like that, and you can tie it up. So that's what I ended up doing here. I used my little tie strap here and just hung it from there so it's not hanging from the brake line. Next, we need to remove the cotter pin and this little keeper. So now I'm going to use the high torque impact gun here to remove the 36mm nut that's on here. This nut is torqued down to 295 foot-pounds. It's red Loctited on, and it has a nylon lock washer. So having a gun with a lot of torque like this Milwaukee high torque is going to be a must. I'll put a link for this gun in the description of the video. That way, if you need to make an investment in an impact tool like this, it'll be there in the description. My old air power tool would not have been able to budge this axle nut here. So this axle nut is meant to be used one time only, so I'll link up a new one in the description of the video. Now you can grab the rotor on the left and right side and wiggle it and kind of pull it straight off. Now that you got the brake rotor and hub assembly off, you need to inspect the spindle here for wear. Sometimes when the bearings go bad, they wear the spindle out, and you want to make sure that's in good place. If it's not, you'll have to replace the whole spindle. So you can replace the bearing itself out of the hub and rotor assembly here, but it's more cost efficient to buy a brand new rotor, bearing, and hub assembly as one versus the time and labor to press out the old bearing and press in a new bearing into the old rotor. So the new rotors come with an oily film on it that we need to wash off. It's a little oil that they put on the rotors so they don't rust on the shelves while they're waiting to be sold. So once we get the rotor all cleaned up with the brake clean, you can use soap and water also to clean the oily film off. Then we're going to take the rotor and slide it back over the spindle, and we're going to throw away the old nut, and we're going to use a new nut that already comes with the red Loctite in it. And I'm going to link up the nut and the rotor in the description of the video. That way, if you guys are interested in picking those up, you can find those there. Now I'm going to use the impact gun to run the axle nut in just till it's snug, and then after that we'll torque it down in a second. So our new rotor is going to be much thicker than our old rotor, so we need to press the brake pads back into the pistons a little bit. To do that, I'm going to use this little scissor tool, and as I tighten this lever here, it spreads the pads wider. You could also use a C-clamp or something like that, but the investment in this tool is not very much, and they work really well. So I'll leave a link for this in the description of the video also. So we only need to press the pads back a little bit, not very much, just a couple little turns with this tool. And as you can see, once we got it removed, it doesn't mar up the pads or anything. Before I rebolt the bracket and caliper back on, I use a little bit of blue Permatex thread lock. This is like a little glue that helps prevent the bolts from vibrating loose and coming back off. I will put a link for it in the description of the video. So once you got the thread locker on, you can go ahead and slip the bracket over the rotor like this. Go ahead and start the bolt and run it in until they're snug, and then what we're going to do is we're going to torque them down with a torque wrench. So the torque spec on this bolt is 148 foot-pounds. So I'm going to use my torque wrench here and ease, and when I do the torque wrench, I do them slowly. I don't jerk the torque wrench, so I ease the torque up until it clicks. Now we're ready to install the wheel, and we're going to torque the lug nuts down to 150 foot-pounds. Then we'll lower the vehicle down and torque the axle nut. So I'm going to switch my impact gun here to mode 1, and that reduces the torque down to 100 foot-pounds. And I'm going to go ahead and run these lug nuts on with the impact gun. Then I'll finish torquing the wheels with a torque wrench once I got the vehicle back down on the ground. Now I'll go over the lug nuts, torquing them down at 150 foot-pounds. Now you can torque the center axle nut here with the 36mm socket, and you're going to torque this nut down to 295 foot-pounds. You may even have to put a cheater bar on your torque wrench to achieve that torque. Now you're going to line up the little keeper here with the holes on the spindle here, and you may have to take it on and off a few times, and then we're going to install a brand new cotter pin. Don't reuse the old cotter pin. After you install the cotter pin, now you're ready to install the cap. So there is a possibility that the bad wheel bearing set ABS codes, and you want to clear that with a scan tool. And after you do that, that would complete the job of replacing the wheel bearing on a 2004 through 2008 Ford F-150 two-wheel drive. I'm Brian Essek from How to Automotive. I'd like to thank you guys for watching my videos. Encourage you to subscribe. Invite you to head over to the howtoautomotive.com website, and also to remind you that I will link up all the parts and tools that I use in this video in the description. Thank you again for watching.